Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Imagine growing up and then your parents are like, well, he loves playing with his dinosaurs. Let's get him the dinosaur video game. That'll be fun. And then that's your first encounter with the game. And you're like, well, that traumatized me. I'll think about that for the next, 20 years or so. That's what this video is about. But welcome back to Backseat Gaming. For whatever reason, when you're a kid, just like the dumbest stuff will scare you. Like, here's an example. I remember having a magazine called Disney Adventures, which would have like fun little comics and stuff included in the magazine. And there was this comic about an alien toenail that like this kid basically has a toenail that he thinks is an alien and no one believes him. And then the story basically concludes with like, it turns out there was something freaky with his toenail all along. And for whatever reason, at me at like 6 or 7, whatever, how old I was, just kept me up at night. Naturally, of course, it's also happened with tons of games that I played growing up. And I feel like for this list that I'm making, here's also a gaming example of what I'm talking about. If you've ever played Ski Free for the like Windows, back when Windows still looked like this, you'll know that its intention is just to be straight out, like, it's a game about skiing. But obviously, like very infamously, actually, if you don't know how to speed up your little guy, at some point down the hill, you'll encounter the abominable snowman. And if you don't know how to speed up your guy, which the game never outright tells you, he gobbles you right up. I'm talking about just really silly things, basically stuff that isn't horror games at all, but just stuff that stuck with me as a kid and just gave me like nightmares. And I think I'll go in the order of like maybe like the most like, oh, that makes sense, like scary stuff, to like number 1 being like the really that gave you nightmares of all things. But I like 10. 10's a good number, and they freaked me out anyways, and I stayed up at night thinking about them. So here they are. They're going to be in the list too. Probably the freakiest moment, at least to me, obviously this is all personal, is Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1 straight out. So overall, this is a very fun game. It's very much like, I think, one of my favorite versions of Peter Parker straight out. And some of my favorite versions of these characters in general. Like Venom is hilarious in this game. Doc Ock is actually pretty menacing here. Like he typically is pretty wacky. Like even stuff like the Alfred Molina Doc Ock, is like fun, but he's still got like his like equal silly, equal menacing. And this one he's just kind of like cold and calculating. Anyways, to talk deeply about it, overall, it's a pretty chill, kid-friendly game, tons of good humor, good action, and stuff like that. I guess technically, spoiler alert, if you really want to avoid what the final boss of Spider-Man for the PS1 is like, then I would avoid this section. The whole plot of the story is that the main villains behind the game are Dr. Octopus and Carnage, partly because I think they couldn't render all of New York. So technical limitations, there's this gas that basically surrounds the streets. This will explain why you're only swinging from rooftop to rooftop when you play the actual game. It's like their big evil plan is to gas the city or something like that. When you're finally kind of like on lower ground later on in the levels, is because you're accessing like sewers and secret underground labs and stuff like that. When you go to confront Carnage and Dr. Octopus, I think they're like back-to-back boss fights pretty much. And they're really difficult. And even Carnage himself is like a little freaky looking in this game, but he's not that big of a deal. What really freaked me out as a kid, though, was the final boss where like once they're both defeated, the symbiote from Carnage just straight up takes over Dr. Octopus, and it makes this, I don't know what you would call it, but Spider-Man calls it Monster Ock chase sequence. Like think like Crash Bandicoot status where you're like running towards the camera and you can't hit him, you can't hurt him. You just chasing behind you with this like horrifying, like just real guttural screech. I'll try to imitate it on camera. It's like a but anyways, the guy looks terrifying. It's really intense because it's a chase sequence. Like everything's exploding. Like you basically have like Vecna from from the PlayStation 90s coming after you. And to this day, I don't think I've ever beaten Spider-Man for the PS1 all the way through, just because like the stress of the chase sequence, like it's not a traditional boss battle. I just was never able to do it because of the difficulty and just how badly the like this monstrosity freaked me out. I don't know if they use this concept ever again, like the whole like Carnage taking over Dr. Octopus, but this is definitely when it first premiered, and they really nailed how freaky this disgusting little creature, like, or big creature is. And man, did it make for a final boss, but man, did it also keep me up at night. Up next, I wanted to talk about Jurassic Park, for the Super Nintendo. So the reason why this game is number 9 is because it's actually low-key a pretty like intense game for a kid to play. Like I get it, you know, it's from the 90s pixel art. I'm sure kids at around that age and my age are playing like Code Veronica X and stuff like that, and kids nowadays are playing like, I don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's and way scarier things than I did as a kid. So let me lay it out like this. Jurassic Park, there's basically 2 parts of the game that are equally as intense. The first one is just like, it's like an overhead shooter. And so you're walking around the world and you basically can just get ambushed at any point. Like in the very first area, for example, you can take, I think, either 2 or 3 paths. One of them is just the one that people will usually take, where you'll be walking through just like these clearings in the trees. And at any time, you'll hear this like just loud raptor screech, and raptors will come out like Bruce Lee status, just trying to karate kick you down, which is like quite a jump scare for a young kid to experience. Probably wouldn't be as bad if you had better guns, but all you get is like a little like electric little lightsaber thing or whatever at the very start, which takes forever to kill them. So it's a pretty intense sequence. The other one is just straight up you get chased again. So it is with these games and chasing. I think it's like some type of triceratops guy. And again, it's a thin clearing. You basically just have to like hold right the other time in order to get away from it. Otherwise, it's just an auto death, like you get trampled. And then the third path I think that you can take will lead you to a part of the park where you're just straight up not ready for it. To this day, I don't know if you can kill this thing or not, but if you go down that way, you'll basically just get ambushed by what is essentially like a cutscene. Like it's just a T-Rex shows up. Again, I don't know if you can shoot at it or like what, but it just shows up and eats you just straight out. Like this game is very like not forgiving, and it's very brutal with its depiction as to what happens to our friend. I think it's John Grant. Bear in mind that it's like Resident Evil status, so your ammo when you do find other guns is limited, but just the dinosaurs can just jump you at any time, which is pretty intense, I think, like for a 7-year-old to be playing through. But my mom saw that I had a bucket of dinosaurs as a kid and just was like, hey, this is for him. This is for my boy. The other part of the game is just straight out when you enter buildings in this game, it turns into a first-person shooter. And those are freaky too, where it's like you might turn around a corner and see like, you know, one of those like acid-spitting dinos that show up out of nowhere, and the velociraptors still try to karate kick you, but I guess you can see them from a distance. So now the scares become almost like just you don't want to get too close or otherwise you'll get jumped. And sometimes you just straight up need like night vision for certain rooms. Otherwise the game will like start like it'll just kick you out of the room saying you're not ready yet with like a dinosaur screech attached to it. So overall, this is basically like Resident Evil and Doom, but with dinos. And even on the Super Nintendo way back then, this game definitely left a mark on me, and I was just staying up at night, like being afraid of dinosaurs, I guess. So at number 8, I think this is going to be the shortest section, actually, just because of how like infamous it is. I think many of you share this one. It's just basically the entirety of Majora's Mask. So I didn't own this game. I usually had to borrow like the Nintendo 64 off of my cousin. So time with anything Nintendo 64 for me was pretty limited. And so the concept, especially as someone that always struggled, I think, with time management, the idea that you only have a certain amount of time to do stuff every day because the moon's going to come crashing down. And also you can never get everything done. Like there's always going to be like you get things done to complete the quest and then you have to rewind it. Not to mention just a freaky atmosphere in general. It's kind of like a very depressing game a little bit. The moon overhead's freaky. You know, there's obviously like very freaky looking enemies because it's a Nintendo 64 Zelda game. Yeah, I would honestly let's say like the few times that I did play this game, it definitely left a lasting impact on me. And I definitely had like just straight up nightmares about like time running out. Like I think this might be the earliest, honestly, like apocalypse-based dreams that I had where it's just like time's limited, time's running out. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I could probably even put Ocarina of Time on here, but you know what? I think Majora overall had the more like, I guess, nightmarish concept as a kid. And that's why it's so low, because it's like pretty logical as to why people would probably put this as a pretty freaky game they played as a kid. At number 7, I've put a game called Lego Rock Raiders. So I haven't played too many RTS games in my life, and I would say this is probably my first one. And it was honestly a pretty good time. Basically, the idea in Lego Rock Raiders, because this is, I think, a pretty obscure game overall, essentially you crash land on a planet, and so you're commanding your team of like explorers to go dig up fuel in order to gather enough resources to be able to leave. And so the entire game takes place in like these caves, these caverns and stuff, where like the whole point is that you're mining up minerals and building up your stations with like tools, electricity, and things like that, which sounds like a pretty like chill time, all things considered. No, it's like you're just directing guys with orders to, hey, can you build these weapons? Oh, hey, can you build these power stations? Hey, can you like start mining here? It actually is a pretty chill time. And I think this is why this is my first game on this list that's like kind of like, really? This freaked you out? Because the obstacles in this game, if it's not straight up like cavern stuff, which I think to me, it's like it does inspire a little bit of that, like that claustrophobia type of feeling. The whole game is like in caverns, which means you can encounter things like landslides and lava flows and stuff like that. Just imagine just a typical cavern disaster, which is not fun. Takes place in the dark, which is why you want to set up lights and things like that. But more so the anxiety of dealing with random encounters too. So there's these guys, for example. There's two main monsters in this, really overall. One of them are these slugs, which will like try to feed on the stuff that's powering your machines. And I think it's pretty specific what it takes to get rid of them. So if you don't already have it set up, I think it's like this like sound wave type of blaster. They're gonna start feeding on your resources, and then that can make things go south very fast. As you know, in our RTS, resources are very precious. But I think overall, the ones that freaked me out the most was the idea of encountering these monsters made out of rock. Sometimes they straight up would look like boulders, depending on the level. Sometimes they could show up as like this variant where they were frozen, or this variant where they're made out of lava. But they make this like screech, this roar when they come out, and they're just there to wreck stuff, you know? So the panic of like, I'd get into the zone of like everyone's, you know, jelly along, everything's getting mined, everything's like set up, and suddenly this wrench shows up and like I have to deal with it, and it's a scary monster. It's like, I think that's what's unique about games, you know, is that you have not only the added stress of like, I don't want to get a game over, I don't want to like lose the level, but if you attach it to like something that you have to figure out how to deal with, right? This is like kind of like the ski free monster a little bit. It's like, oh man, it's like ultimate anxiety. And I definitely remember going to bed a few times just like worried that I don't know where these rock monsters were going to show up made out of like, I don't know, like drywall or something. But overall, pretty fun game. Actually, this might be the first game on this list I'd like to go back to one day. At number 6, I'd like to put actually the first Rayman game. I guess like I wanted to keep this list for like one game per series, if that makes sense. Because honestly, you could put Rayman 2 on here for sure. Because there's this sequence where you're running away from a monster down a slide, but just straight out as you're running away, like the edges of the camera become like these monster teeth. And if you don't, you know, slide down fast enough, you straight up get eaten. And that's just how it goes. So that was a pretty freaky sequence, but I feel like this one is more in line with the spirit of the video because this one will confuse you for sure. I was afraid of the first Rayman game at the very end of the game. Like it's split into worlds, basically, Rayman, and you can never progress to the final world unless you collect all of these little guys called Electoons. And so as a kid, I could never figure out where the location of each of these little bastards was in every level. So to me, the final boss of the game was actually this boss called Scops, the Scorpion. Not only is his level like the most intense, but he's just got this like really freaky appearance and music and everything, and he's surrounded by like lava. And this is honestly like I think mentally represent like the point where I would just hit a wall in the game because you can see the final world, the final set of levels looming in the distance. You can see the little icon on the map and stuff, but I never knew how to get there. And so this was almost kind of like the final boss to me. And just to make it that far, like it's a grueling set of levels to make it to him without getting the game over or anything like that. And you still have to like figure out his boss fight. It took me quite a bit of effort as a kid. And so I just associate his whole section again with like, it's that whole gaming thing, right? It's like the stakes are very high. So losing here is like, it's just not an option. And it's just got a freaky appearance. I think honestly, most Rayman creatures really, and especially in the first game, have a freaky appearance. They're all limbless. I love it now. It's like almost like this Disney animation style with like a bunch of like chaotic elements thrown into it. It's a great style. But as a kid, Scops the Scorpion really represented like just this like obstacle that I could never clear. And that could be even the scariest thing of all when you're a gamer. Up next, I think, is another pretty well-known one. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has a level called Sandopolis Zone. There's a certain part of Sandopolis Zone that a lot of Sonic fans know for sure. What I'm about to talk about is when the ghosts start appearing in the level as like this timer. You could honestly put as like an honorable mention here whenever you're in water in a Sonic game and the music starts playing, just the panic of that. For some reason, like as a kid, I really did not like this level for this exact reason. And I just imagine like, well, I guess I should explain the concept of it. Basically, there's these switches that light up the pyramid. As you're progressing through it, the level gets dimmer and dimmer. You'll let loose some ghosts at one point in the level. And basically, like as the light starts to dim, you start to see more ghosts flying around the screen and they start to look meaner and meaner. And so it's almost like the underwater music, like steroids, except you have to constantly keep resetting it with all these switches throughout the level. And I just remember having like not so great memories of like these ghosts showing up at night and stuff while I was sleeping. And otherwise it's like a really like frustrating like maze of a level. So you just have like that double, like this is frustrating and also these ghosts are giving me anxiety. Double combo for sure from the Sonic the Hedgehog team was very obviously unintentional, not intended to be freaky, but it definitely stuck with me here. So halfway on the list is where we'll put it. At number 4, we have the Old Chateau from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Now we're entering some really this gave you nightmares territory, but it definitely stuck with me. The Old Chateau is an area in Diamond and Pearl. There's just basically a sequence that you go through like this beautiful forest, like the music's great. You have a partner that helps you out through this section in battles, like it's a lovely forest and stuff like that. But you just hear like these inklings of there's supposedly a haunted mansion and stuff nearby. And so, it's Pokemon. You definitely expect everything to be very cheery. At most, it kind of delves into like more serious subjects, right? Like you have the fact that there was a war in the first 2 generation games that can sometimes be brought up. Closest thing I can think of is maybe the little girl in Lavender Town that asks if you can see the white hand on your shoulder. It's basically like a more involved section of that. Because the Old Chateau, it's like sectioned to a couple of things. First of all, like in these games, you can really feel when it's night and day. You're encouraged to come back late at night because that's when certain things can happen. And one of those things is awesome. It's where you first encounter Rotom in the television. So if you really like that Pokemon, you can encounter it there. And they do a great job setting them up and everything, like in encountering him. I wish he had his own theme. That would have been pretty neat. But anyways, getting off topic a little bit. In the Old Chateau, there's a couple of things that are kind of like eerie about it. First of all, you have like just the classic portrait, this little, like, I guess it's like a silhouette or something that has eyes that light up when you look away and when you face it. Totally normal, which is not really the part that like would get to me. I thought that was actually pretty cool. It's more so the fact that it just was like a rumor mill because you can encounter ghosts here. So ghost number 1 is a ghost of a little girl that like will sometimes just straight out show up in the room next to you, then proceeds to exit, and then she's never seen ever again. And then the other one, which is more involved, is that you'll just straight up see like a butler sometimes. By the way, these are both random, if I remember right. Like maybe the time of day matters, but otherwise they just happen at random. And the butler guy will basically just show up and straight up float away. NPCs have walking animations just like you, but they go out of their way to make him move completely still, as if to show that he's not moving. He's just kind of floating and stuff through the air. And naturally, if you follow him, like you won't see anything, I think the reason why it's not up a little bit higher is because I think overall what freaked me out more is this was early internet when things like creepypastas and stuff like that were becoming popular. So naturally, the Old Chateau in Diamond and Pearl just inspired so much like fan art, creepypasta stories, like ghost stories about it, that like you just as a kid, it makes your imagination run wild. And so you just kind of get caught up, I think, in that world of like, oh man, this is so freaky. Like this is the first haunted place in Pokemon. And the butler totally died. And that's why you can find an antidote or something in the trash can in the kitchen. This is where you find an old gâteau, which I don't know what that is, even to this day. An old pastry, maybe? I don't know. Mr. Clean special sponge. But in any case, yeah, I got totally wrapped up in the internet and this part of this game. And so definitely had a couple of restless nights because of the freaking Old Chateau from Diamond and Pearl. Oh man, we're making it to our top 3, huh? I think overall, I'd like to toss in maybe Let's toss in some honorable mentions maybe right now. Quick mention I would like to make is just straight up Minecraft. Like, especially during the early days of Minecraft, I think you know what I mean. Just like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, it had tons of like creepy stories of like Herobrine and all far out there rumors and stuff like that, that like in a game as lonely as Minecraft, sometimes could just straight up get your imagination running really wild. Like early beta, like I think I got into it like right after alpha ended and beta was first starting up. These worlds are so empty that sometimes you get swept into like, did I see something move in the distance, or like you just feel kind of alone, but it is very relaxing still. It's a very conflicting, bittersweet almost type of feeling. But then too, just you do stuff like exploring caves or you just suddenly hear like these like musical whooshes and stuff like that, or like these like these scary horror string chords or something, and it just kind of catches you off guard. So Minecraft is pretty high up there actually, but I don't think I ever got nightmares from it. Another weird runner-up I'd like to give to is Mario's Time Machine. Mario's Missing. I think it's Mario's Time Machine, I want to say. There's just something that's kind of unsettling about you're used to Mario, you're used to typical Mario, and for whatever reason, there's just this very something like unsettling or just off-putting about Mario encountering like real ass historical documents. Like Mario seeing the Great Lincoln Memorial is kind of like I almost feel like I'm in like these like weird alternative universes that I never quite got nightmares from it. But not only was it boring, it just kind of made me feel pretty unsettled and like this isn't Mario. Like this is some faker that is it's making me do homework, stole his identity. But those are the two that kind of came to mind. Anyways, number 3, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Dennis the Menace for the Super Nintendo. Luckily, this one's really easy to verify for yourself. It's essentially a really difficult platformer. And I don't remember ever getting that far in it because it's just not worth the effort in my opinion. But in the very first level, classic Dennis the Menace, you start off in Mr. Wilson's house. And the way you progress in this game is that you want to collect, I think, like candies or like a certain amount of some collectible or something before you can get to the exit and actually unlock it. And so they split up Mr. Wilson's house in 3 ways, pretty much. Like you have the first floor, which has the exit at the very end once you have all the items. You've also got a basement level, like a basement floor, and you also have a 3rd floor and an attic. Your first time going through, you'll probably end up like going through like the first floor and the basement. Cool. There's no save points, by the way, so you're walking upstairs with most of the collectibles in hand. And on the 2nd floor, you can see the attic from above, and you can see that there's collectibles in the attic that you need to get. So naturally, your brain starts thinking like, okay, I have to get up there at some point. Like, how do I do that? And so as you're progressing through the 2nd floor, avoiding all these annoying obstacles, shooting down cats and stuff like that with all the weapons that you've picked up to this point. And you get to this part where out of nowhere, a hyper-realistic Mr. Wilson face will suddenly come careening at you out of nowhere. And for whatever reason, like as soon as he spots you, like his facial expression never changes, but he genuinely will speed up to try to catch you. And so you can see him from afar, maybe, like if you're lucky enough, but otherwise he basically appears out of nowhere from the right-hand side of the screen. And again, he bolts. As soon as you're within shot, he bolts. And you can run away if you hop on an object or hop back to the left far enough, he'll just loop back around. Bro shows up looking like Joseph Stalin, like completely out of place with the art style of this game, and it's an auto kill. If he catches you, there's no mowing him down like an enemy. Like if he catches you, you're gone. Like you have to restart all of the level again, which means restarting your progress again. I don't know why they made him so scary looking, and I don't know why they made him an auto kill, because you need to get past Mr. Wilson in order to access the attic. But this would stay up with me like for late nights because I would just like get so frustrated that I couldn't progress. And Mr. Wilson was so freaky looking that I just ended up not wanting to play too much of this game overall. I think the fact that his facial expression never changes, that's what really seals the deal on how freaky this is. At number 2, I think this one might be some, like more people might be familiar with also, Rugrats Search for Reptar for the PlayStation. There's a rather also, I think, kind of well-known part of this game where it's real silly. Like you just walk around the Pickles house and basically every level is contained in an object in the game. So whenever you want to enter, like, I don't know, there's like a golfing level, you go find the golf clubs in the closet. And so there's a specific level in the game where the lights, like the power goes out in the house and you, Tommy Pickles, have to go downstairs to the refrigerator to open it to make light come back because he thinks that light is stored in the refrigerator, which is adorable. And so they changed like the lighting and the color palette of the whole house to be dark. And for whatever reason, you're a baby, you're a kid, you're afraid of the dark, there's these freaking apparitions that will just float towards you going like, ooga booga, just straight out, and it's like it really catches you off guard because basically every obstacle in this game so far is like a tangible thing. It's like wild animals and I don't know, like loose cans in the grocery store. Like it's pretty like innocent stuff. So for a reason, just seeing like, I don't know, these like spirits, these freaking demons flying around the Pickles house as a kid. And just the idea that it's essentially like almost like Resident Evil status, like the batteries in your flashlight can run out, and the house is kind of set up in a maze like pattern. Like you can't just walk downstairs to the fridge. You have to figure out how to get there. Just was a lot of unease, and like I did not like this level as a kid for that reason. And I remember it very well even to this day. Really not that scary overall. I don't know why it freaked me out so much as a kid. But it's funny because this game actually I can have kind of a runner-up where there's a level where you end up trapped in a toy store. And so you're in the toy store at night, and there's this ginormous King Kong figure that just roams one of the rooms. And when you get close enough, it activates and starts chasing you. And so I remember as a kid, I would dread that room, and I really did not like going in there. And I did everything I could to collect all the stuff that I needed from that level. Like I just minimized the time in that room with that big gorilla as much as I could. And luckily, it's real satisfying when Reptar takes him out at the very end. But yeah, I don't know why they put apparitions in the Pickles house in this game, but it definitely got to me as a kid. And at my number one spot on this list, I have Toy Story. Toy Story for the Super Nintendo. And this is the reason why this is at the top of my list is because it's one of those, like the most actually. I have no idea why this gave me nightmares. And I for sure definitely got nightmares from this because I remember for sure waking up like crying at night because of this game. This is like those Disney comics I told you about. Like this is just like, this is the alien toenail for my brain as a kid. So it's a pretty straightforward platformer. It's pretty difficult, I gotta say. You take control of Woody and you're just trying to get to the end of the level straight out. But there's a specific moment that I think even to this day, honestly, I haven't gotten past it. There's a level where instead of a traditional level, you're just presented with straight out a Buzz Lightyear fight. And it's funny because I don't think I've beaten this game to this day, so I have no idea what happens after this. But most levels are like this, except for this one part where instead of like a get to the end of the level type of level, it's just straight up a boss encounter is the entire level. And it's called Woody's Nightmare. So in this level, a ginormous Buzz Lightyear will show up with like this freaky unlit like color palette. And he's got like this very like robotic, like just cold calculating voice. Like it sounds like Buzz Lightyear, but not quite. And so just based off of how much it threw me off, the boss fight itself, I could never figure out how to beat it. And it would always freak me out so bad when I would encounter it. And then when you lose, it's a Super Nintendo platformer. So back to the beginning you go. You expect Buzz Lightyear, this like fun, like warm, heroic presence, but it's supposed to be a nightmare. So instead you got this giant, like evil nightmare Buzz instead. And it's just like, I could never get past it. And so it just haunts me to this day that I can never get past it. And I definitely remember like encountering Woody's Nightmare, as a kid, and just like seeing Buzz Lightyear, like a giant Buzz Lightyear with the color palette he does in this part in my dreams. And I don't know, just like chasing me and stuff like that. And I definitely remember for sure like having nightmares where I would wake up crying just straight out. I think more so out of any of the other ones. The other ones I would have nightmares, but this one I remember specifically crying. But I guess in my defense, I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old. So there's that, But even now, like looking at it, it's a little bit unsettling. I can see why. I think that's just what threw me off is that, it'd be like if Mickey Mouse showed up and he was like in grayscale and being really mean to you in a video game, like he probably would start crying too. But yeah, for whatever reason, Woody's Nightmare from Toy Story, Super Nintendo. That one is my number one pick. It's the dumbest one on this list that freaked me out. And it caused the biggest reaction, I would say, overall, I think. You compare it to Jurassic Park or Majora's Mask, which you'd think would get me more. But really, I think that low-key just, maybe if anything, got me more like inspired to pursue like my interest in horror as an adult. I guess like just survival genre really in general as an adult. Like those games fascinated me because the gameplay I think was fun. Toy Story, not so much. Gameplay was not that great. And the game was really hard for no reason. And Buzz's Nightmare totally sucked. So there you go. That's my list. Let me know in the comments down below if you had any games you played as a kid that, again, they weren't intentionally horror games. Like, I don't want to hear about the time you played Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver and got freaked out, or freaking, again, Resident Evil or something like that. I want to hear about the times where you played like what was meant to be a kid's game and you just suddenly got off guard and had nightmares about a specific part. That's the stuff I want to hear about in the comments. But hopefully, like, this little quick stroll through memory lane was fun for you. It definitely was fun for me. None of these games really freak me out anymore. Doc Ock Carnage is a little freaky still, I guess. And I gotta say, Mr. Wilson is still pretty not that fun to look at. I do not get good memories from Mr. Wilson from that Nintendo game. But otherwise, I invite you to like the channel for some more gaming discussions. They're always a lot of fun to get into, especially these sillier ones. And I invite you to subscribe to the channel too. Even if you leave a comment, like just saying like hello, it's always appreciated. I think it's like helping YouTube kind of like let them know like, hey, this guy makes some pretty fun stuff, talks about some pretty neat games. Let's show them to more people. But I think I'll do it for this one. Hopefully we'll get like some type of, maybe like that challenge video I mentioned in my last one going on the next one. I don't know what sentence that was, but anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next video for sure.